KPBS On Demand is supported by Paint Care, offering households and businesses in California more than 800 leftover paint drop-off sites for recycling. Quantities of 100-plus gallons of paint may qualify for a large volume pickup. Learn more at paintcare.org.
Good morning, I'm Debbie Cruz. It's Tuesday, December 3rd. High tides pose a flood risk for local beach communities. More on that next. But first, let's do the headlines. We are now nearly 2 months from the start of a new Trump administration, but California's lawmakers are preparing now for potential legal fights. Monday in Sacramento, a new crop of lawmakers in the Assembly and Senate convened for the start of a special session. Among them are Democrats Darshana Patel and Lachey Sharp Collins in the State Assembly and Republican Carl DeMaio. Democrat Akilah Weber is now a state senator after serving in the Assembly. One of the first bills introduced would set aside $25 million to safeguard progressive policies relating to civil rights, climate change, and immigration. Abortion is another topic expected to be addressed, and we will have more on that a bit later. But first, new leadership is coming to the San Diego City Council. Sean Elo Rivera, who represents District 9, says he won't seek another year as council president. The revelation was made during an interview with Voice of San Diego, a partner in the Public Matters Reporting Initiative with KPBS. No other council members have announced their intention to seek the leadership role. An update on a brush fire last month in the Spring Valley area that briefly forced evacuations. Cal Fire investigators say it was part of a string of fires intentionally set, and one man is now in jail facing arson charges. Alan DeNoyo was arrested Saturday. He's accused of starting 9 fires in total in East County, 2 on November 10th and the others on November 20th. That includes the fire near State Route 94 and Miller Ranch Road that prompted those evacuations. From KPBS, you're listening to San Diego News Now. Stay with me for more of the local news you need.
KPBS On Demand is supported by Fleet Science Center's newest exhibit, Survival of the Slowest. See firsthand how nature's smallest, slowest, and weakest creatures can not only survive, but thrive in the wild. Open May 24th through September 1st. Learn more at fleetscience.org.
The National Weather Service says high tides could bring minor coastal flooding to some beaches this morning. Reporter Katie Anasta says king tides could bring even more flood risk later this month.
Low-lying areas in Imperial Beach, La Jolla Shores, Del Mar, and Cardiff are at the highest risk for flooding. 2 events are contributing to it. One is an astronomical high tide, which happens every full moon and new moon. There's also a storm out in the Pacific Ocean that's creating higher surf. Meteorologist Casey Oswant says bigger king tides are expected from December 13th to 15th.
We're going to have to see if that's going to coincide with any elevated surf, and if so, there's potential for additional coastal flooding.
Imperial Beach resident Jose Corona has seen the king tide before. He says people tend to avoid walking on the pier.
The pier will be shaking, big time.
High tide in Imperial Beach Tuesday morning is expected to be nearly 6 feet. King tides there are expected to reach nearly 7 feet. Katie Anastas, KPBS News.
Governor Gavin Newsom's plan to protect California from the incoming Trump administration began to take shape Monday with the start of the new legislative special session. Reporter Andrew Dyer says abortion care access is at the top of the agenda.
California Attorney General Rob Bonta announced 2 new bills today he says will protect access to abortion care in the state.
This legislation is us planning to stay ahead of the curve regardless of what the Trump administration has in store for the future of abortion care.
The Medication Abortion Access Bill would shield manufacturers and suppliers from liability for providing abortion care in California. The second bill further empowers the Attorney General to enforce abortion access laws on local government entities in the state. It's one way Bonta says the state is preparing for another Trump administration.
It's based on what Trump does. That will dictate everything we do. We will stop him from overreaching, doing things that are unlawful, unconstitutional. and sue him in court and stop him when he does.
California spent $42 million fighting Trump in the courts during his first term. Governor Gavin Newsom is asking the legislature for $25 million more in anticipation of his second. Andrew Dyer, KPBS News.
Work is already happening to secure that money to pay for California's legal costs if it's needed. Capitol Public Radio's Megan Myskowski has more from day one at the Capitol.
Democratic Assembly member and chair of the Budget Committee Jesse Gabriel of Los Angeles introduced the bills, which together would set aside about $25 million to create a litigation fund. He says it's a modest amount in the context of California's budget.
But we think it's a really good investment, in part because part of what we're doing here is protecting California taxpayers.
Gabriel says that's because the Trump administration could follow through on a threat to withhold federal aid, for example, if there's a natural disaster in California. Republican Assemblymember James Gallagher of Yuba City says he doubts the Trump administration would withhold those funds.
The reality is all it is doing is giving more money to government lawyers at a time when people are struggling with the worst cost of living.
California filed over 100 lawsuits against the last Trump administration and won many of them. It's been about $42 million. Governor Gavin Newsom's office says he intends to sign the bills if they pass in time for Inauguration Day, January 20th. In Sacramento, I'm Megan Myskowski.
Coming up, San Diego launched an ambitious plan to help solve its homelessness crisis through private donations. 1 year into the initiative, experts are not impressed.
I don't think that this sounds like a very successful initiative. I think that the proof is already there in terms of the low amount of money that they've raised, the low amount of money they've given out, and the fact that they don't seem to have built any infrastructure around it.
Stay tuned to hear the city's response and why leaders are sticking with their plan. We'll have that story and more just after the break.
KPBS On Demand is supported by the National Conflict Resolution Center. Geopolitics, a divisive election year, and strained budgets are all topics that can create tension in the workplace. NCRC can help workplace leaders navigate polarizing issues with the Culture, Communication, and Conflict Certificate. More at ncrconline.com.
Earlier this year, the city of San Diego came up with a novel idea to address homelessness, solicit donations to pay for shelter, housing, and safety net programs. But investigative reporter Scott Rod says the city has fallen far short of its fundraising goal, and little money has been spent.
Mayor Todd Gloria chose his State of the City address in January to unveil a bold new effort to solve homelessness.
So tonight, I'm announcing a philanthropic campaign to help the city carry out our ambitious plans to end our homelessness crisis. Called San Diegans Together Tackling Homelessness, this campaign already has commitments for $250,000.
The city aimed to raise $370 million in donations this year from philanthropic organizations, private businesses, and average residents. The money would go towards preventing homelessness, expanding shelters, and building an affordable housing high-rise downtown. But San Diegans Together Tackling Homelessness has so far raised just over $1 million, a tiny fraction of its target for the year. Its only expenditure was a few $1,000s on T-shirts for a volunteer event. Experts and advocates who focus on homelessness response and prevention are unimpressed with the initiative.
It is a worthy aspiration, but not terribly practical and probably not achievable.
Rick Gentry is the former CEO of the San Diego Housing Commission. The public agency works to expand affordable housing and address homelessness.
I think there's a great need for planning, coordination, focus, and partnership. You don't just set out a goal and expect people to follow you.
So far, the city hasn't followed through on key commitments. A 10-member advisory board that's supposed to help run the initiative is only half filled and has yet to hold a meeting. The city also said it would post updates online about the initiative's fundraising and spending, but that information is nowhere to be found.
It's bad governance. There's a real issue with the lack of transparency.
Jesse Schmitty is the state policy manager with the advocacy group Alliance San Diego. He's skeptical of the city's plan and says nonprofits and residents already do a lot of work in this space. He argues they shouldn't have to shoulder more of the burden.
This is an issue that needs to be dealt with and addressed by our government.
Mayor Todd Gloria declined multiple interview requests through a spokesperson. San Diego Chief Operating Officer Eric Dargan is overseeing the initiative for the city. He downplayed the criticisms.
I don't consider it falling short. I just consider it an opportunity for anybody that wants to get on the bandwagon. There's no time frame. There's no deadline. This is just us as a community of people working together, asking ourselves, what can we do with what we have?
That said, Dargan initially hoped more people would donate to San Diegans Together Tackling Homelessness.
You'd be amazed how many people in this city are not doing anything.
Dargan says the initiative is looking into funding prevention efforts and assisting college students facing housing instability. But it's made only one expenditure to date, purchasing T-shirts for a volunteer cleanup event downtown.
You know, doing $2,400 on cleanups to get volunteers to come and be active downtown and understand where a lot of trash is coming from, which is coming from the homeless community. That's a small effort and not anything major.
Dargan says the city still stands behind the initiative, despite the limited impact. But he offered a more modest measure of success than the original goal of resolving homelessness.
If we're able to assist one person, then this initiative is a success.
So the city will continue this donation-based effort to address homelessness. But should it?
No, I don't think that this sounds like a very successful initiative.
Jennifer Mosley is a professor at the University of Chicago who studies the intersection of nonprofits, philanthropy, government, and homelessness. She says the city misjudged how philanthropy works and that it hasn't done enough to inspire confidence in potential donors.
I think that the proof is already there in terms of the low amount of money that they've raised, the low amount of money they've given out, and the fact that they don't seem to have built any infrastructure around it.
Mosley says the city should focus its efforts instead on supporting established charities and working more closely with the Regional Task Force on Homelessness. Scott Rodd, KPBS News.
After Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, and Cyber Monday, it's now Giving Tuesday, when charitable organizations come together to support philanthropy. Here at KPBS, we rely on your generosity every day. Your donations support the public service journalism you hear on this podcast. Go to kpbs.org and click the blue Give Now button. Your support makes this podcast possible, along with all the news and entertainment you can get from KPBS online, on the radio, and on television. So on this Giving Tuesday, consider giving to KPBS. That's it for the podcast today. As always, you can find more San Diego news online at kpbs.org. I'm Debbie Cruz. Thanks for listening, and have a great Tuesday.
KPBS On Demand is supported by the National Conflict Resolution Center. Geopolitics, a divisive election year, and strained budgets are all topics that can create tension in the workplace. NCRC can help workplace leaders navigate polarizing issues with the Culture, Communication, and Conflict Certificate. More at ncrconline.com.